Let's get more on the Victorian situation now with Casey Briggs and The Curve. And Casey, we haven't had to check in with you for a while, so tell us what is happening in Victoria.
Yeah, morning, David. If only we had better things to say. The states and territories, they've been very slowly reopening through this process for the economy's sake, desperate to avoid having to take a step backwards, having to reimpose restrictions if the virus starts winning. Well, it looks like the worst has happened in Victoria. Yeah, the past week and a half in Victoria is clearly a concern. Yesterday we saw the highest single-day rise in new cases in the state since April 7th. But it's actually even worse than that, because back then there were far more imported cases coming in from overseas than there are now. Far from protesters being the big problem, it really seems like the people that you know are a bigger threat to your health at the moment than the people that you don't. Now, the number of locally acquired cases in Victoria was very low last week, but we've seen much consistently higher numbers this week. So the states reimpose restrictions, but remember, they won't have an effect or we won't see the effect of those rather for some time. And if these numbers keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger, then it's more likely that this virus does get away from us. Daniel Andrews has also flagged the possibility of reimposing the strictest lockdown measures on some of the highest risk suburbs in Victoria. And David, that's a version of what we're seeing at the moment in Beijing as authorities try and control this big spike that's emanated from a seafood market in China's capital.
And Casey, are there other countries that are facing a similar situation?
Well, there are certainly other countries that have seen a resurgence, although most of those never got the virus to as low a level as we've seen in Australia. Take a look at Iran, for example, a country that has definitely seen a resurgence of this virus. But cases there only got down to 800 a day. So in other words, Iran's best day is far worse than Australia's worst. But have a look at Israel as another example. Israel's had very good success for a while now, very low numbers, like Australia, cases in the teens every day. But then the virus started to spread through schools, and since then it's been steadily growing, although not as fast as that first wave, steadily growing nonetheless. The other thing important to remember about Australia is that our contact tracing regime has been far stronger than many other countries through this pandemic. But as we've seen in some of the worst outbreaks, that doesn't necessarily scale up so well. At the moment in Victoria, there are nearly 1,000 close contacts of current cases and outbreaks to keep track of. And David, if that grows, if tracers need to start tracking more and more and more people, well then Victoria's contact tracers do risk becoming overwhelmed. If that happens, again, much more likely this virus gets out of control.